So the most popular technique going right now in the bass fishing world, and pretty much any other fishing, really, you can do this technique anywhere or for any species, is the mid-strolling technique. And the most popular bait for this technique lately, at least the last year or two, has been pretty much so hard to get and non-existent unless you're one of the lucky few that just obviously times it right and knows when a restock comes. And that, of course, is the Deps Sakamata Shad. Easily, probably the most popular bait for mid-strolling. And you know what? I got sick and tired of paying the $10 a bag or whatever, or in some case, or you know, just not having the colors that I want to get because they're always sold out. And thankfully in the soft plastic community, or soft plastic bait making community, there's been a few people that have been, or a few mold designers that have taken it upon themselves to create a mold. And that is today's subject, is we are going to be making our own Deps Sakamata Shads. So we are going to, of course, be using probably the most closest to the original bait there is in the mold world right now, and that is by Kearby Design. And right now they only have a 5-inch version, but I would assume that with the popularity, it's eventually we're going to be seeing the 6, 7s, and the 4-inch versions eventually from them. But let's get this open and take a look at it here. At least they pack it in real nice. Now this is a big mold. Not going to lie, it's a very expensive mold. It is a 10 cavity. They always do a nice job of putting these packaging in here. But yeah, there you can see it. 10 cavity, 5-inch Winged Minnow mold. Oops. And let's take this stuff off here real quick. And let's see. And as you can see, it's pretty good looking. Craftsmanship is always top notch with these guys. This is going to be the second mold that I've ever bought from the Kearby Design, and yeah, it's got the little fin features in there, the hook slot milled in, and it's one long runner sprue. It's not side by side. Why they didn't do that, I have no clue. But from what I can tell, this thing is going to drink plastic and lots of it. Okay, so the plan for today is to obviously test this mold out. With it being 10 cavities and a big long runner, I first want to find out how much plastic this thing is actually going to drink in order to fill it up. If I were to have to guess right now, it'll probably take about 6 fluid ounces is my guess. Maybe less. I could be wrong. I've never shot the mold yet, so but just from the looks of it, it's gonna drink a lot of plastic. And then what we can do is, once we do a run, we can cut the sprue out, or we can take half a sprue, or take a sprue, cut it in half, and lay it in here so we have a 5 cavity mold as we're dialing in our color. That way we're not wasting a lot. Or heck, we could probably cut the sprue all the way to a 1 or 2 cavity, dial in our color, and then run the entire mold. I think that's what we'll end up doing. But we're going to try to get as original to the softness of the as we can, because the original, if you've ever watched it, any of the underwater videos or used it and you fished it weightless like a Senko, it kind of has a shimmy to it as it falls down, which is pretty cool. Most of us are not going to use it like that. We're going to be throwing it on a jig head and mid-strolling with it. In which case, you probably could get by with a little bit more durable plastisol. But I found that in my other baits that I've been making for mid-strolling, you really want to stick to the softest plastisol blend you can. Just because it's so much lighter and just makes that jig head able to roll the bait a lot easier. So yeah, let's do some experimenting. Let's see how much plastisol this thing drinks, and then we'll try and dial it in as close to the original as it is. Okay, so you guys are gonna have to excuse the furnace noise in the background. I live in Minnesota. It's cold up here. What do you expect for December? Which brings us to another a good subject here, and that is mold temperature. It's especially for my fellow bait makers up here in the north. As we all know, the cold brings with it some challenges, and that is making sure our molds are hot so we can get even laminates, and as well as it can lead to issues if you have a cold mold and you inject into it. It can prematurely cool the plastisol and not fill the cavity. So in order to combat that, and excuse all the mess on the table here, is to just get a pancake griddle and preheat your molds and your injectors. That way we won't have any problems, especially with a mold this big. I mean, I had it set to 300 here, and it's still cool to the touch. That big mold the aluminum just sucks the heat out, so it takes quite a bit to actually get up to temperature here. But we'll let that preheat while we get the plastic in the microwave and going. Okay, so we got a couple plastisol here, and I just going to leave it clear for now. We got our mold clamped up, and make sure that this is actually empty. That would probably be helpful. So now we're just going, just for the first run, we're just going to take some clear plastic and see how much actually this mold takes. This is a 8-ounce injector from Bass Tackle. So let's see how much it takes. It pretty much sucked up the entire cup, and feels like I hit the spot. And okay, there's some left in here, obviously. So about 6 ounces is what it takes without topping it off. Obviously, there's still some plastisol in the injector as the plug, but yeah, I guess we'll just keep topping this off here. Let this cool down and unclamp it and see what we got here. Okay, so while I've been waiting for the mold here to cool, I did take the plastic out of the injector, what was left of the puck, and I remelted it down. So in order to fill this mold, it looks like it takes about 5 ounces. It's about hanging around just above the 1/3 cup. So I would say, yeah, about 5 ounces is what's left, or is what this mold takes to fill it up. So that with that in mind, we'll see. We now know we're definitely not going to be making little 4-ounce batches at a time to fill this, you know. Most of the time I don't do that anyways, but it's nice to know that one run takes about 5 ounces. So when you're doing laminates or something like that, you know, okay, I can probably get 3 runs on a laminate if I'm doing my math here correctly. 16 ounces, 5 ounces per run. So yeah, 3 runs on a laminate if I'm lucky, or theoretically. Ooh, and this mold is actually still kind of hot, but let's see what we got going on here. And I'm actually gonna put my glove on. Sorry about the furnace noise. I'm not going to be able to ignore it here. And yeah, they look like they filled out pretty well. It's hard to see with them being clear. But this bottom one here looks like it didn't fill all the way in the tail portion here when you compare it to the rest. But otherwise, not bad. Not bad at all. But that looks really, really well. Other than this one, bottom one's tail didn't go all the way, but I am digging that. I mean, there's no imperfections in it. I mean, other than that bottom one tail, I don't see any denting, which is nice. All the little wings are intact. Heck yeah, I said this looks like a good clean run. That one there got a few micro bubbles in it, no big deal. When we add plastic or coloring to the, well, this one here did have a little oopsie, but we didn't fill all the way, but that's probably first shot that I ran. So once the mold heats up even more, you probably won't see those issues rise up here. But otherwise, yeah, I'm happy with the first shot. Let's go into a little bit more scientific stuff that we need to do here. Okay, so for the vast majority of you, you know, you're going to run this bait and just the way I just did it, except for with color, and you'll probably throw it on a minnow. But I want to try and get as close to the original as I possibly can get. And that includes weight. Now, so we are going to take a little gram scale here, and we are going to take one of these guys, and we have it on grams, zeroed out. This might not be the most accurate due to due to the amount of hangover, but it should be right in a ballpark. And one bait weighs 8.898 grams, 896, whatever. Pretty standard. But then we look at, when I was waiting for my mold to show up, I did a little bit of investigating, and I came across this article on the Sakamata Shad from Optimum Baits, and it's really neat because it gives us the salt content of each bait and the size. So focus here. So as we can see in the 8-inch version, now normal material, that's, I'm assuming that's what they're calling their weighted or their standard, not the heavyweight version of the bait, which you got underneath here. We can see that the salt content of the 8-inch is 5%, and each bait weighs 36.5 grams. And then the heavyweight model has 65% salt, which boosts it up to 41 grams. They even give you the recommended hook size, which is pretty cool. So let's go down to the 5" here. Oopsie, turned the camera off for some reason. So anyways, try and get, so here we go with the 5" version. The normal material salt content is 10%, and each bait weighs 9.8 grams. Whereas the heavyweight version is 75% salt and weighs 11.3 grams. And they recommend a 3/0 hook, which I don't think is right, but okay. But 9.8 grams is what one of these is supposed to weigh. So we are about a full gram out, which probably would equal 10% salt. So that's going to be up to you guys if you want to mess around with salt. But I'm going to try and get as close as possible as I can to the original. So let's remelt all this stuff down and add some salt and see if we can't get a little bit closer to that 9.8 grams per bait weighting. Okay. Okay, so I don't know what, we got our plastic salt melted down. Because I don't know exactly how much salt we're going to need, we're not going to add a whole lot at once. I'm going to think, because if you remember going back to our Cinco video, when I added salt, it came to we were doing 3 teaspoons to 4 ounces of plastic salt to get the right weight. But a Cinco is a lot thinner bait, or there's not quite as much mass, I would say. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. Well, this is why we're doing this. So we're just going to take one. We're just going to start with 1 teaspoon for right now, and we're just going to start right there. And because I'm starting to get, I want to see what a color looks like in this bait. Of course, we're going to be stirring in some moisture bubbles. We're actually going to add some color to this while we're at it. And it's one of my favorite bait fish colors of all time. Zoom calls it blue glimmer shad, or I mean blue glimmer. Others call it mint chocolate chip. If you listen to Josh or Chris Jones's videos, he calls it. If you listen to World's Worst Fishing, Chris Jones, he calls this color mint chocolate chip. Someone call it, for some reason nowadays, it's people are referring to it as monkey milk or something like that. But we're just going to take some blue highlight, dump it in there. And then we're going to put some black flake in it. That really sets it off here. But we got to stir in our powder really, really well. And then we'll take a 1/4 teaspoon to a cup of 0.40 flake, black flake. And as you can see, it turns into a really, really bait fishy looking color. Now adding in that salt and the highlight powder cooled this plastic salt quite a bit. But we also want it somewhat we want to shoot this now as cold as possible to keep this salt suspended in the plastic salt as much as possible, so that way each bait comes out as even as possible, as identical, I should say. But I should really be doing this with gloves on. But we're just going to pop it in for a few moments while we get the mold clamped up, and we'll shoot around. Okay, give this a good stir to make sure that all the salt and the flakes suspend. Grab our injector here and let's do a round. Four, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. I don't know. I always just hold pressure for 10 count on all most of my molds I do anyways. And yeah, well, let this cool down, and then we'll open her up and see if 1 teaspoon worth of salt got us to where we need to be weight wise. I will say I am really digging how Kearby Design made it so you can crack this mold open. You know, you can fit a fork in there or your knife edge in there really nicely like that. I also believe it serves as a way to vent off for the wings of the bait. But, yeah, let's crack this open and see what we got here. And yeah, those all filled out. That is beautiful. Gorgeous as it comes, I guess. That is probably my all-time favorite. That is my all-time favorite fluke color. Blue glimmer, monkey milk for you newbies, or however they're calling it nowadays. But your real test is to see if that 1 teaspoon of salt got us the amount of weight that we needed. So we're just gonna go ahead and turn our scale on, make sure it's set to grams. We'll just take a random one here. And yeah, isn't that a pretty color? Very bait fishy. So let's see what we need, what we got here. And we got 9.07 grams. Definitely not enough. Okay, let's add 2 more teaspoons of salt. Now, if you were a mathematician like my brother, that's what he does for a living, is he's a math teacher. I'm sure he could come up with the formula that I would actually need in order to get how much salt I would actually need to put in here to get the correct weight. And then also, if you're using one of the sinking blend plastisols out there, the amount of salt that you're going to need for that is going to be probably less than this, or probably less than what we're going to end up with, because the sinking plastisol from companies like Dead On, they're a really dense plastic, and they already sink on their own. They're pretty heavy comparatively. But we got a few clumps in here yet. We're going to have to heat it up some more. So now we're up to 3 teaspoons though. We'll shoot another round, see how much closer we are to our end goal of 9.8 grams for a 5-inch Sakamata Shad here. Grab a random one. And let's see what we got here. 9.446. So we're getting close. So we went from 9.0 grams, add 2 more teaspoons of salt. That got us another 0.4. So 2 more teaspoons of salt should make it to the authentic weight level here. So let's do 2 more teaspoons. Okay. That would make 4 teaspoons total. 5 teaspoons total. All right, let's take a random one. .856. All right, so that's where we needed to be. 5 teaspoons of salt. Okay, we're going to try to laminate this bait here. I heated up two new cups of soft plastic. Already salted them. Now we just got to add color. We're going to go for a color that I've never made before, but just because I've never had a bait fish profile to really test it out on, and that is Tennessee shad. There's a couple different ways you can make it from what I understand. We're going for a kind of a brownish green top with a with some gold, so that's where the gold pearl is going to come in. And then for the belly, it's most people are making it with clear and just silver flakes. So I have no idea because I've never made this color, but we're going to try out some Scuppernong. We're going to start out 16 drops there. I should actually set this other cup to the side so I don't accidentally get anything. So now we got, that's our brown. Ooh, that could have been really bad. Now we gotta green it up. For that, I think we're just going to take some regular watermelon and let's try 3 drops. 1, 2, and 4. That's already pretty brown looking. You know what I could have done? I could have probably just did some Lure Works watermelon brown. Oh well. This is, I guess we're going to make it the hard way. 2 more drops. That's 8 drops of watermelon. I might have screwed this up already. That is not what I was expecting it to be. Well, let's just keep going. Let's darken that up. 1, 2 drops black. It's all starting to set up here. Add some gold pearl. Won't need too much of this, I don't think. Just a little bit more. Okay, while I debate on whether or not I actually like that top, we're going to throw our silver flake into our belly color. Pretty hard to mess that up, I guess. Okay, we got both colors. Whoa. We got both colors around the same temperature. So now we get to do the fun part. I forgot to look at the layout of this mold. See which side had to go on which, but I think I got it right. Guess we'll find out here. Okay, let's see what we got here. See if we did all right or if we made garbage. Okay, now as you see, I do this a lot, and I mentioned this earlier, is
in order to save plastisol, because I don't know, especially when I'm testing new colors, is like I said, block off a bunch of, use the previous runner, block off all the other cavities. That way you're only using that little bit of plastic, and it doesn't look half bad actually. Let's actually get it out here and take a look. Yeah, that's not terrible. I'd say that's not bad for a color that I've never ran before. I actually kind of like that. I don't know. You guys tell me if I hit the nail on the head or not. To me, it looks pretty natural. So I think I'm going to go ahead and run with that here. We'll remove this entire runner now and run that entire full 10 cavity here. And we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so the first batch, or first shot at the full run didn't go as planned. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4 that actually filled out completely. The rest are garbage because the tails didn't fill out completely. I will say that I did make a small change to the recipe. I added some, just because it just seemed like it was missing a lot of the greens. I went and threw some green highlight in there, and there you can see a little bit better. But God, that was disappointing. Still learning the mold, apparently. I must have had it. I shot that one a little cold. We'll take the good ones that we can get, I guess, and we'll trash the rest. But yeah, you can definitely tell there's a lot more. Now you can see the green hues. I like that a lot better versus our first example. You can't really, you don't see the green. And the Tennessee shad always seemed like there was some sort of green in it to me. But we'll do another round and see if we can't fill them all completely out. Okay, there we go. That's a lot better. They all filled out. Got that nice shine to them, I guess. Yeah, I'm extremely happy with these. Peel them out, and what do you know? I don't know. What do you guys think? Did I hit the color? Do you hate it? Do you like it? Comment below in the comment section. Give me some other color ideas. I got a feeling that this is going to be one of my favorite molds, just color wise. So yeah, hit me in the comment section what color you guys like in this type, in the middle type deal, and we will definitely give her a shot. God, that is really good looking. All right, everyone, I wanted to show you a tank test to show you the action of this bait on the fall before I ended the video. And so I waited a full day to let the baits cure. Otherwise, when they're freshly out of the mold, they're still curing. They're still softer than what they would be if you were to wait a couple days and buy them out of a package. But so I was taking the ones that tails didn't fill out completely just to test them to see, so I didn't ruin or make a bunch of holes in my good ones that I made. And it took me a good while to figure out what size hook, how heavy a gauge wire the hook needed to be in order to get the fall or the action on the fall. So I have no idea where Deps came up with a 3/0 hook for their bait, because I tried a 3/0 and a 4/0 and both standard wire and heavy duty flipping wire hooks is what I'm going to say. And they all sucked. The bait just kind of rolled on its side and fell. It wasn't until I got to a 5/0 heavy duty hook. This one happens to be a VMC HD 5/0 hook that I finally got the action right, or it fell right. So let's take a little test and we'll end the video on that. But you can kind of see the shimmy on the fall. Kind of like a stickworm, which is really unique and really cool for a fluke style bait to do. But that's it. That's what you gotta do in order to get that there. You really seen it. Obviously, this little container doesn't have enough depth to it in order to give you a good view of it for too long. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a neat little bait, and I'm going to have a lot of fun pouring these up for during the winter in order to use next year. So there you go. That's the action of the bait and a little tank test. I know it's not the greatest, but comment below what you thought, and then we'll catch you on the next video.